Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness, a fast-paced, informative hour-long program dealing with physical, emotional, and mental health issues, consumer information, and money management, as well as the arts, theater, travel, entertainment, social, and civic events. Brought to you by the University of South Carolina School of Medicine Specialty Clinics, the Institute for Partnerships to Eliminate Health Disparities, the Newberry Opera House, the South Carolina Philharmonic, supplements manufacturer A.J. Lanigan, Leon Jones Insurance, and the Mitchell House and Gardens. And now, here's the host of Health, Wealth, and Happiness, Gary Posey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Here's a rundown of today's program. My first guest joins us the fourth Wednesday of every month. He's Rusty Brzee, owner of ScoreNavigator.com. And today we're going to talk about how the credit industry can clean up its act. Boy, I'll tell you what, Rusty and I talked for almost an hour today about all of the problems that the credit industry has, and there are many, most of which, quite frankly, could be solved, but aren't. From 1:30 to 1:45 each Wednesday, Don Schaefer is my guest. Don is a travel expert, been in the business for over 40 years, and today he's going to talk about the biggest travel scam going on. From 1:45 to 2, my final guest of the day will be Jeffrey Day. He'll be by to talk about the Columbia Classical Ballet's latest offering, which will take place on Friday in Dancing Sleeping Beauty. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the entire program, and welcome back, Rusty Brzee. Good to have you here.
Glad to be back, Gary. It's always a pleasure.
You know, the irony of all of this is over the past decade, we have seen the laws change so much with regard to how people purchase their homes, purchase appliances, purchase their automobiles. The paperwork has become astronomical. For those of us who have purchased property in the past 5 or 6 years, it's become a joke. It is not, I'm not joking when I say that you sign between 40 and 50 documents when you purchase a home. And most of this is under the law and the guise of, we want you to be fully informed about what it is that you're buying, full disclosure on the part of the seller, full disclosure on the part of the real estate agent, full disclosure on the part of everybody, so that there are no questions about what it is you're buying, how much you're paying for it, what the interest rate is, yada, yada, yada. It goes on. It goes from the ridiculous to the sublime. On the other hand, as you have pointed out, since the first time you were on the show a year ago, when it comes to honest, true, accurate credit data or credit scores, it ain't never been right. You gotta ask, why not?
Well, can you imagine, Gary, that if, with all these pieces of paper, and while you were saying that, I remember years ago when I sold my first house, FHA financing, with a couple that had come in, and she was signing stuff, and then it slid over to him, and when it did, his signature just went all kind of crazy, and I was trying to figure it out, and he had told me a story where he had gone into the bank with her one day, and he had signed something, and she screamed at him, so he gets petrified whenever he's around her to sign something. But can you imagine if they went in and your lender or wherever you're trying to purchase something on credit, and they said, okay, well, I've got 15 pages of disclosure telling you that we're going to give you financing, but we're probably not giving you financing based on what your current credit score should be, because we know that the data that we used in order to make this decision that generated this score is not correct. So we just want to let you know you might be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest over whatever items you're buying over your lifetime based upon data that's not correct. Do you think they would ever do that?
Not a chance. And the thing that I guess is so discouraging is that we have the technology today to be up to the minute, not just up to date, but up to the minute, to the last transaction, to make the information correct and to make it current. And we don't do either.
And that is really hard. You know, they have studies on, they know what certain demographics of different people in different areas, what's the probability of what cereal they'll eat for breakfast and how many times during the year. And we have a program that analyzes credit data. It tells you and shows you where most errors occur based upon not only studies that we did, but studies that the government has done and other independent places. The difference is we can show you how many points it's costing you off their credit score, but why isn't that on every piece of documentation that's being pulled when you have your credit pulled across the United States or around the world? Because people use credit scores and credit data to determine, you know, whether somebody's going to get something or not in other countries, not just the United States.
Well, here's a $64 question. Everything that I've talked about thus far in terms of what we're required to show someone who is borrowing money and buying property is all required by law. Why hasn't anybody gone to Congress or gone to their local state government and insisted on cleaning up the Credit Industries Act and saying, my God, we have the technology to do this. We talk about wanting full disclosure. Why don't we practice what we preach?
Because it's a multi-billion-dollar business when you're dealing with people's credit, all the way from the small place that gets you a $500 credit card to the home sales, which generates, you know, just billions of dollars for lenders and creditors. And then the credit bureaus in themselves, you know, they get paid to report data, and then they sell that data. So they're making all of this money, but so many people are so used to just kind of going with the flow. And as long as they get financed, you know, you and I had talked about it earlier, you know, when I was in home sales, people that came in, they want to know three things. How much is my down payment? How much is my monthly payment? And how fast can I move? They didn't really care as much about the home. They didn't care about the rate of financing. They just wanted to make sure it fit into those criteria, and then they moved. And so people still have that mindset, Gary. So they're not looking at, wow, what could my credit score really have been when that guy calls them up and says, hey, Gary, I got you financed today. And guess what? Your payment's only $30 more a month than what you wanted. You'll just have to give up something else. Oh, really? That's great. Let me go down there and get this product. Verse, let's just take a little bit of time. Let's look at this credit file. And now that we know these are definite errors, why can't we get that taken care of for free versus having to pay rapid rescores or go through so many channels with your creditors to try to get the stuff to the bureau and then have to wait for that credit bureau to get that stuff updated in a 30, 45-day period of time in order for you to get the right rate of financing. And during that period of time, let's just say there are going to be other errors that occur from some of your other creditors during that period of time, and you're right back in that same boat again.
And people don't understand compound interest. When you tell me, Gary, I got some good news, you got approved, it's only 0.5% greater on the mortgage than we were hoping for. You know, what's 0.5%? 0.5% over 30 years? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what that is.
Well, my experience with that is that the person that goes out and gets credit and they really don't care so much about the rate or what their score is, either they have no intentions of really living out and paying the term of that loan. You know, if it's an automobile, I'm just going to trade it in a couple of years. I'm not going to finish paying it 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is. I'm not going to do that. Or even with a house, I probably won't live in this house for the term of this loan. Or I may, at my age, if I went out and tried to finance something for 30 years, you know, I'd be going on 86 years old, at that period of time. I'm not looking to say, well, I'll make it for 86 years. I'll just keep paying while I can. You never know what goes through a person's mindset is what I'm saying. So they're not looking at the rate. Now, the one that's really concerned, I want the best deal. I want to buy this automobile at this thing. I only want to pay this much. I don't mind paying finance charges. Then I'll go this route. And they're the ones that tend to make all their payments on time, and they're the ones with the 790 credit scores and 800 something credit scores.
They don't abuse the system. I hate to say this, Rusty, but the fact of the matter is the reason why there are a multitude of sins in the industry is ignorance on the part of the borrowers. Yet they just don't know, so they don't know what to ask for. They don't know what to dig in their heels and say, we need to change this, because you're right. Whether you're buying a house or buying a car, how much is my monthly payment is about the only thing people are concerned with.
You're absolutely right. But these studies that went on, Gary, they started out in 1998. Now, I've been looking at credit and investigating credit since 1981. And so even during that period of time, through that stretch, because credit scoring wasn't really involved, you weren't getting all of the information. Now that I have the information and we've been able to build programs to do that analyzation, and we can show it, everybody, it's not everybody, but the bureaucratical people know where most errors are at. They absolutely know. They may not know what it costs them on their credit score, but they know they're there. So if you know they're there, what's the solution? So if you have positive credit and you pay your balance, say you're able to pay your balances off every month, but they don't report the day that you pay it off, you can go and apply for credit the next day or two. And if they reported, the last time they report to the Bureau was 5 days ago, then you're having to wait 25 days or so before it's updated properly in order for you to maximize your credit score. Why not have a system that automatically updates it throughout the day as you make your payments? It shows how much you charge, and it shows how much you paid off every single day throughout the day when you have your credit pulled. How come they don't have that in place?
See, here's the deal with ScoreNavigator.com. It's a one-time charge for Rusty to program your information and tell you, here are the errors that have been made on your credit data to increase your score. Not only tell you that, but this is what's interesting, just kind of hitchhiking on what you've just talked about. You'll even tell people the best day to pay on the money that they owe. Because most of us don't, well, what difference does that make? Explain that. I mean, what difference does it make? I get my paycheck. Let's say I get paid on the 1st or the 15th or every 2 weeks. What difference does it make what day I pay my bills?
It makes a big difference because, for us, because it's done on programming and it's what we ask for, we want to know when each one of those creditors for that individual reports to the credit bureau. Because Citibank, for the Southeast area, may report data back to the credit bureaus differently than people that are in the Midwest. The days and stuff, they don't do it all on the same day. So it has to be done individually wherever you live, wherever you establish that credit from, and where you're making your payments. So if a person who pulls credit, if I'm ABC Mortgage and I pull credit, and on my report that I pulled on that potential borrower, it highlighted where the errors are probably going to be at. It also says how many points it's costing, but it also says when does that creditor report to the Bureau based upon any action steps that this consumer does. I think the consumers need to know that information. You need to know if your bill is due on the 23rd and you pay it on the 23rd, is it going to report on the 25th or is it going to report on the 17th? And you have to wait. So that way you know if you've got your bill in that cycle and, even though it's not due to the 23rd, but they report to the Bureau on the 11th, my granny son, you better pay it on the 10th. make that payment on the 10th so it's updated on the 11th, and you don't have to wait another whole 2 or 3 weeks before you get credit for your payment on your credit score. People need to know that information, Gary.
They do. How many people do you suppose either understood what you just said or have any concept of what you just reported?
Unless you're in my organization or people that I go out and I speak, across the country, in this country, in Canada, about credit, and then whatever they retain, not many people, Gary. Now, if I was running for president, I would go in. But if it starts, like you said earlier, in a legislative area, even with their own senators or representatives, and they go, look, we're really concerned about how our data is being shared all across the United States to strangers, but the data that's being shared is not correct, and we need something that can help us understand our credit better. And if we understand it better, then guess what, Gary? People will go out and they'll shop because they'll shop with confidence. So they'll spend their money with confidence, and guess what? The economy will continue to grow. People will buy more products. We'll have more manufacturers doing stuff. It's all related to credit right now. And the government's made it that way.
And so, you go back to square one and say, that being the case, you would think that everybody, if it's going to increase our economy, if it's going to help people to buy more, you would think everybody would hop on board saying, let's clean up our act. Let's make things accurate. We have the ability and capability of doing this. Why don't we?
Because they won't. That would be almost like going back to before credit scoring had an impact on the buying power, and people made a big jump into that because then there was manual automated underwriting where a person didn't even have to think on whether they could approve a person for financing or not. So before previous to that, they looked at a credit report, Gary. A lender sat there and they held a piece of paper up when they pulled credit and they go, 9 good items, 4 negative items. This person has a high credit of $5,000. So, yeah, I can give them a $35,000 loan. It looks like they've been able to pay that off. They've had this type of stuff. They actually had to look at it. They didn't look at it that the high credit wasn't being reported correctly or the balance wasn't corrected because it had no impact on the score. It had no impact on whatever it was they were going to provide. But when credit scoring became into the marketplace, then they had to try to figure the algorithm out. And nobody's worked that algorithm. Nobody's done it. Here's your score based upon a weight system, and now we know the predictability of people from this score to this score are going to pay longer on the loan than the one that have the lower scores. But the lower score ones have the higher rate, so they have the higher payment than the guy who has the better rate. So he's going to be more successful because he's like, hey, I got the best rate. I got a lower payment, borrowing the same amount of money as this poor guy here who has bad credit data and has a lower score.
And, the irony of all of this is that there's not a month that goes by that one of the 3 credit bureaus doesn't send me, for a limited time only and for next to nothing, we will send you a report on your credit score. And Rusty refers to these credit scores that these 3 bureaus will send you as feel-good credit scores. They're not the actual credit score that if you go in to buy an appliance or to buy an automobile or to buy a home that the lender is going to use. Nay, they're going to use accurate information. And so you go in with a credit score of 720, and the guy sitting behind the desk selling you that brand new vehicle says, Mr. Posick, I don't know where you got that number of 720, but according to what I'm looking at, you got a 645.
Absolutely. Well, how about these companies that go out and they capture leads by giving you a free report and a score, and the report you get when you get that score and it says you're a 720, but then when you apply for credit from that company, it says you're a 640. I come up and say, look, you just gave me this report and score, and now you're telling me what you just pulled on me the same day is a 640. Why does this report say a 720?
What do they say when you do that?
They don't, because people don't question it. They don't question it. They just get their free report, they get their score, and then somebody calls them up and they say, "Hey,
well,
Gary,
wait a minute. No wonder it's free. That's what it's worth. Nothing.
It's worth nothing. Absolutely.
We'll take a break and come back with more right after this.
Heart disease, joint pain, allergies, eye care. The list of health needs we're faced with goes on and on. But it's comforting to know there is one healthcare practice in the Midlands with the expertise to take complete care of you. University Specialty Clinics. Only at University Specialty Clinics will you find a team of 200 doctors who are expert physicians and world-class medical educators. Whether you need a simple physical exam or need complete complex medical treatment, you can trust the doctors at University Specialty Clinics to take special care of you for life. Call 255-3400 for an appointment. That number again, 255-3400. University Specialty Clinics is owned and operated by the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, where we practice what we teach.
Our policy is taking care of South Carolina. Leon Jones Insurance. We're from South Carolina like you. Neighbors and friends through and through. Our policy is taking the time to give you the service you expect to find. Our policy is taking care of South Carolina. Leon Jones Insurance.
With locations in Columbia and Batesburg, Leesville, call 790-5600. That's 790-5600 for a quote.
When credit scoring was introduced into the marketplace in the mid-'90s, who really knew the impact it would have on our lives today? The 3-digit number determines the rate of financing we get on our home and auto loans, insurance rates, and even employment. But do you know how your credit score is calculated, and is it accurate? Do you know what to do to raise your credit score or change errors in your credit report? ScoreNavigator.com at just $19.95 a month not only gives you the most accurate credit score in the industry, it will tell you how to increase your credit score. Listen to information about you and your credit on the 4th Wednesday of the month from 1 to 1:30 right here on Health, Wealth, and Happiness.
We're back. Rusty Brzee is my guest with ScoreNavigator.com. On average, with those people that spend $19.95 for your service, how much can you raise their credit score?
Right away when you look at it, Gary, because of the amount of errors based on our client base, because most of them have really good credit, 40, 50, 60 points in errors that I see right off the get-go.
Wow.
So if it's showing it's a 640 score, chances are they're a 690 or 700 score, if they just have their high credits being reported correctly and their balances being reported correctly.
Now let me ask you this. Are there any segments of industry out there that are really interested in having good, sensible data and therefore accurate credit scores?
I don't see any. I don't see anybody that's having credit pulled from anywhere, whether it be free or you pay for it, or if companies offer you free scores, that any of that information is correct. It's none of it's 100% correct. I would say on the best it would be 81%.
What I can't get over is that, the banking industry, their whole premise is based upon accuracy. You would think they'd be all over this and say, come on, let's get it right.
They're just, it becomes awareness, Gary. I mean, it's anything. There's probably health things out there that we don't know about that could make people feel better, and we have a program that we're working as hard as we can to get it out to the bigger companies now, so that way it can float down into the public. But I assure you and the listeners that we're working with governmental officials in order to try to get this as a must for every credit report that's pulled, sold, given away, that our software analyzes that data at the same time.
How does this mess affect our credit card interest rate?
Well, it does, because you're getting scored based upon that, and that's how the credit card companies, I mean, there was one charging 76%, and so they get away with it because,
oh my goodness,
well, our average credit score customer is a 500 credit score, and we're no longer allowed to charge $272 on upfront fees on a $300 credit card in order to be able to establish this person something. And they think just by getting the credit card is what's going to throw your score up. There's a series of things that you need to do with any new credit in order to maximize your score, where the revolving will do something well for you, but if you go out and you buy an automobile today and you get it financed, you better not look to do any other applying for credit for 12 months, because your score has gone down as soon as you buy that car on credit.
And, you know, there's here again, maybe it's because of my credit score. I'm not lying when I say that I get at a minimum of 3 pieces of mail a week. This is snail mail a week, was from some company, some organization, some bank, some financial institution wanting me to take out their credit card.
I know. And they're pushing it. They're pushing it, and they do it for the interest. They do it because people tell them it's okay to hold 30% of your balance to high credit ratio, and you don't get affected on your credit score. And that's just a myth, Gary. That's not the ratio. So 30% is still going to give you major point deductions, especially on a new credit card.
And then to make matters worse, with every revolving account that you have, they don't want you to pay it all off. In big print, they put, the minimum payment is $25 a month. That's all they want you to pay, Russ. They don't want you to pay the balance.
Right. And now the law makes them where they have to show you how much that's, how long it will take you to ever pay that off. They have to show you that now, where, a few years ago they didn't. So now they do. So now you say, well, if I just pay the minimum, it's going to take me 16 years, 3 months, and 22 days to pay off. But if I pay this much, it'll only take me 3 years. Well, what if I pay it all off? Then it's done. But when I do pay it off, when are you going to show the world that it's been paid off? So that way I know if I want to apply for any other credit from your competitor or something else, that I'm going to have the right score, that the data is going to be right.
You know what I think about all that, though? That sounds like something a politician would stand up and say, boy, here's what I've been able to legislate for you. It's like saying, yes, it's true that McDonald's has to now tell me that there are 550 calories in a quarter pounder. Last time I checked, I don't know any McDonald's has stopped selling quarter pounders because people said, oh my golly, 550 calories, well, I'm not going to eat that.
Because it becomes a habit. It's habits, and people have bad habits based upon bad information. And so you just kind of go with the flow. We said that earlier. People just tend to go with the flow. Oh, okay, I got financed. I got to move. My family got to go into here. I'll deal with the ramifications of how much I have to pay somewhere else down the road.
Yeah. As you say, it goes back to the way in which people buy. They don't, it goes in one ear and out the other. Yeah, I heard what you said. How much is my monthly payment?
That's right.
And until we get away from that, we become our own worst enemy because, well, I know, but
in those cases, though, Gary, we have to take the responsibility, and the government has to take the responsibility, because people cannot go through and learn and know everything that I've been blessed to know over the last 33 years. dealing with credit because that's all I do. And I probably can't do much of anything else. And so people don't have it. But if those programs are available, then the government should have this program put into place so it does the work for the consumer, so the consumer's getting the right data, the right information, the reports are correct, everything's going well, and more people will actually get financed. And so if you have more people financed where money's being lent out, you can make up the difference on less people at a higher rate. It balances itself out.
Well, here's the deal. So that people understand, if you spend $19.95 one time with ScoreNavigator.com, one time, you're going to find out your true score. You're going to find out where the problem areas are. You're going to find out how to correct them once. This isn't $19.95 and you got to sign up for a year, 2 years, 3. No, once, one time. Now, if you've got problems, let's say you got some real problems, you have another program to help people. What's that program called?
That's program's called Credit DNA. And what Credit DNA is, it's a full-fledged 12-month course that works with all three of your credit bureaus instead of just one bureau. And you have a credit coach and a financial coach that works with you on budgeting, on what rules to follow with your credit, make sure your credit's being updated, make sure if somebody tries to steal your identity, then you've got all of that stuff all included into one package for them, and that's creditdna.us.
It's the best $19.95 you'll ever spend. Take my word for it, it really is. And Rusty, I thank you so much for coming and sharing on Health, Wealth, and Happiness.
Thanks, Gary. You have a good rest of the month. Bye-bye.
Beta-1,3-D-glucan is a dietary supplement when taken in proper dosage, enhances the immune system. For over 30 years, beta-glucan has been researched and found to be very effective as an antioxidant and a free radical scavenger, which helps your immune system be all that it can be in fighting both bacterial and fungal infections and diseases, ranging from the common cold to cancer. People who are in a chronic state of illness, who have diabetes, or who have been exposed to radiation or chemotherapy can benefit from taking beta-glucan without fear of any toxic or allergic reaction from this baker's yeast product. To order beta-glucan, simply call 361-4310. With all the nasty weather that people are having everywhere, and with spring still at least a month away on the calendar, and Lord knows how long before we get the kind of weather that we associate with spring, a lot of people are wanting to get away, and so this is a great time to travel. And here to talk about the biggest travel scam going on as we speak is Don Schaefer, who has spent 40 years of his life in the travel industry, and he's going to tell us about what is the biggest scam going on currently. Don?
Ask you a question, Gary. If you got a call at home or on your cell phone from your bank or from your credit card company or from anybody, and they said, we just need to verify, we've lost some of your personal information, we just need to verify your social security number and your bank number and so forth, what would you do?
I would hang up and I'd call the bank and say, did you really just call me?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's happening in hotels and on cruise ships now. The cruise company calls you from their desk and they say, gee, we've lost your credit card information that we got from you. We just need for you to give us the number over the phone here. And or the hotel calls and says, remember you had us swipe your credit card when you came in, and we've lost the information. We need to verify it. Nobody does that. If anybody calls you on the telephone and asks you for your personal information, it is a scam, period. So don't do it, because a lot of people have had their bank account drained. They've had credit cards run up like crazy, and it's all because they gave their personal information to somebody who said they were representing a bona fide company, and all they were were out there fishing for free stuff that they could get with your credit card. So don't do it.
Now, here's the deal. If you give away your Social Security number and or your credit card number, it's only nanoseconds later that they start using that sucker. They'll drain it. They'll drain it as fast as they possibly can. It ain't going to be like, well, 2-3 days. No, ain't 2-3 days. Immediately, they'll start buying stuff off that credit card.
Absolutely. Nobody that you do business with calls and asks to verify information that you've already given them. And if the bank really wanted your information, they would have you come down to the bank and do it. So don't ever do anything like that. If anybody calls you on the phone, your cell phone says they're the cell phone company, or that they're the phone company, or that they're the light company, or that they're anybody, and they need to verify your information, that is a bunch of BS.
Not only that, and I've had this happen twice in the past couple of years. I'll get that same message via email from PayPal.
Yeah, that's true. And that was the next scam that's kind of related, and that is Wi-Fi. Don't ever respond to anybody asking you for any of your personal information over the Internet. If you have logged on to a particular place and are buying something and they ask for your credit card number, that's one thing. But if somebody is sending you an email and asking you to verify your information, they're trying to steal your identity. And free Wi-Fi is a great way to do that. If your hotel is not offering free Wi-Fi, and the cruise lines don't offer free Wi-Fi, that's one of the ways they make money, is by selling Wi-Fi. But if you're on a cruise ship and you're offered free Wi-Fi on the Internet, it's a scam. Somebody's trying to get your credit card information or other information from you, and once they get into your computer, they can get anything that you have on the computer anyway. So, don't go for the free Wi-Fi thing. Nobody is offering free Wi-Fi in airport terminals except in the airline
lounges.
Clubs. Yeah, the airline lounges that you have subscribed to because you are a frequent flyer with American or U.S. Airways or Delta or somebody like that, and Delta might give you free Wi-Fi in their lounge. But if you're out there sitting in the terminal,
ain't gonna happen.
It's not going to happen. It's going to cost you something to get Wi-Fi in an airline terminal. So don't fall for the free Wi-Fi thing.
Now, speaking of free, however, this is a nice transition. We are going to talk about something that's not a scam, and that would be free airfare from Charlotte, but it ain't 100% free. The airfare is free, but it's connected with a luxury 2-week river cruise. Tell us.
Now this is something we talked about this once before. Viking River Cruises, which is the number one river cruise line in the world. Now they're a premium, high-end type cruise line. We're not talking about one of your ocean liners where you get the inexpensive Caribbean cruise for like
this isn't Carnival with kids. No.
These river cruises are primo. There are only like 200 passengers or so on board. The service is over the top. The cuisine is fantastic. They give wine with the dinner. They have everything is free, including the shore excursions, which is the major way that the ocean liners make money. So everything is included in these river cruises, and usually for like a 2-week cruise, you're talking $8,000 to $10,000 per person for a cabin. One cabin could cost you anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 for a couple.
But they treat you like a king. They, honest to golly, do. They do. I mean, this is top shelf, no doubt about it. I guarantee you this: you're not going to get seasick on a river.
No, and the other thing is you are sightseeing constantly, so you're in part of your destination the whole time you're on the cruise. You're not going from one port to another and spending a lot of time on the ocean. You are actually seeing scenery constantly. Now, Viking, and this is only for this till the end of this week. This thing ends this Friday. So you got to get on the line with either Viking, or I would recommend call your local travel agent and book this. But the free airfare, they do this every once in a while when they have a few cabins that are still available. And mind you, Viking usually sells out for the entire year at the beginning of the year. So here we are in February, and they have some available cabins on what is called the Waterways of the Tsars. This is a 13-day cruise, either from St. Petersburg to Moscow. It includes 4 days in Moscow and 4 days in St. Petersburg, and ports in between. But it includes shore excursions in all the places. 13 days, and it's a 2-for-1 deal on the cabin. In other words, this is like $4,999, roughly $5,000. In other words, but that's half of what it normally is. Plus, if you want to fly from Charlotte to St. Petersburg or Moscow and then home again, they're giving you free airfare and transfers from the airport to the cruise ship, and then transfers back from the cruise ship.
Oh, that's a deal. That is a deal. Wow.
Yeah, so these are on select dates this May and June. The 13-day Waterways of the Tsars, and you can find out about this at VikingRivers.com, or you can call your travel agent. And
let me. Am I understanding you right?
I have some more too.
A couple can go for $5,000?
No. $5,000 a piece.
Okay, $5,000 a piece, but free air is included.
Right, from Charlotte. So you're talking about a $10,000 trip for two, but this is an excursion that would normally cost somewhere around $20,000. Airfare, I already checked it out, from Charlotte to Moscow and back from St. Petersburg, or vice versa, is about $1,750 per person.
Yeah. Wow. That's just incredible. Wow.
Now they have some next fall. These are 8-day and 7-day cruises. One called the Romantic Danube in November, and that goes from Budapest to Nuremberg, and you see Vienna and some other great ports in between. There's one called the Rhine Getaway that goes from Amsterdam to Basel, Switzerland, and includes Heidelberg and Strasbourg. There's the Danube Waltz that goes from Passau to Budapest and includes not only Vienna, but Salzburg, Bratislava. There's a Heart of Germany 7-day going from Frankfurt to Nuremberg, and there's also and by the way, these are all in November, so these are on select, but they're like $1,856 per person. Now, to get under $2,000 per person on a Viking River cruise is unheard of. So this doesn't include free airfare on the ones next November, but it is an unbelievably great price. 2-for-1 river cruises. These prices are 2 people for the normal price of 1. Now, do you want some other great cruise deals?
Yeah, we can take a couple of more.
Okay. These are regular ocean liners. 5-night Pacific Coast cruise. If you've never been on a cruise and you want to go to some great ports, this goes from Los Angeles to Vancouver. It includes San Francisco and Victoria. So these are all great ports of call. 5 nights for $299 per person.
Give me a break.
Yeah, this is on the Norwegian Pearl this May. So that's just an unbelievable deal, and for like $300 per person for a cruise
for 5 days.
Yeah, for 5 days.
No.
So you're going to find out that you love cruising once you do this. How about a 14-night transatlantic cruise going all the way from Miami to Copenhagen on the Norwegian Star? $549 per person. This is $39 a night, and that's this May. May 5th.
My gracious! So how many ports to call?
There aren't a whole lot on this one, but there are like 4 of them over in Portugal and up the coast near Copenhagen. So there's one other, Canary Islands. That's usually a very expensive cruise. This is round trip from Barcelona, $61 a night, a 9-night Canary Islands cruise for $549.
Ooh, I like that one. Ooh,
yeah,
ooh.
So great bargains out there. Now's the time to go shopping for your summer vacation, and you can find all of these if you want to check them out at ColumbusVacations.com, or call your travel agent, because I always believe in booking a getaway like this with a travel agent.
Don Schaefer, I thank you so much for coming and sharing on Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Dr. Frank Martin is dedicated to wellness and not treating the sick. As a result, Dr. Martin's practice is limited to 600 patients so that he can spend time necessary to partner with you to your individual wellness program, suited to your wants and needs. He's available when you need him with same-day or next-day appointments or via his private cell phone 24/7. If you're looking for a doctor who truly cares and is willing to spend the time necessary to provide you with the very best up-to-date medical care in Columbia, call 788-6201. That's 788-6201. Dr. Frank Martin. Dr. Martin is his own man. He's not owned by a hospital. Who does your doctor work for? We're back, and joining us via the phone is Jeffrey Day, here to talk about Columbia Classical Ballet Company's presentation of Sleeping Beauty. And, when you say Sleeping Beauty, Jeffrey, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, well, this is a kid's performance. Wrong. This is not a child's performance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we sometimes associate Sleeping Beauty with Disney cartoon and things like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because Disney has made a lot of money over the past 50 years. You say Sleeping Beauty, yeah, I've seen that. I saw it when I was a kid. And that's what you think of. You think of Disney's version of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, and of course, Sleeping Beauty goes back several centuries. The story, is back in the ages, and one of the things, one of the versions of it that most people know is the Brothers Grimm, which most pieces are based on. But the ballet Sleeping Beauty was created in 1890, and it was an original. The music was composed specifically for it by Tchaikovsky, and working with Marius Petipa, who was the choreographer, and they worked together on a couple other little things, Swan Lake and the Nutcracker. So this was their last piece together. And of course, the story is, the princess who is falls asleep for 100 years. She's been spell's been cast on her, and the only thing that can awaken her is a prince arriving who loves her and gives her a kiss and wakes her up. And this is, and it's not just the story of the princess and the prince. It's also really a story of good and evil, told through these two fairies. I mean, we often think about the person who puts the spell on the princess is often called a witch, and she's actually an evil fairy, called Carabossa. And, she's kind of battling with a good fairy, and, they sort of trade off their powers in dances and to see which is going to be the most powerful. And I think most of us know how this ballet ends. It has a happy ending.
And what I think is interesting about this is that Disney really did clean up a lot of the original Grimm's fairy tale, in as much as those fairy tales written by Brothers Grimm were very dark.
They were very grim. I mean, this is, of course, this ballet, of course, is it has some darkness to it. It's not as dark as the Grimm brothers telling. Certainly, this is not going to be. I mean, this is something that people of all ages can enjoy, and little tiny kids might be a little scared by it, but little tiny kids usually don't want to sit through 2 hours of a 2-hour performance anyway. But it's the key thing in all of this is it's a story with there really is a story here, and of course there's great dancing. I mean, there are just some wonderful dance sequences throughout this whole thing, and both by some of the key characters such as the prince and the princess and the fairies, and by other characters who work their way through, and there are, as with so many of these stories, there are some subplots, and in this case, that makes for some interesting extra dancing.
And let's not lose track of the fact that Jeffrey pointed this out very early on. This is music written by Tchaikovsky, and it is wonderful. It's one of my favorite of all ballets that he did. I like this better than, dare I say it, than the Nutcracker, because it's beautiful, beautiful music. It really is lovely music.
It really is incredible music, and of course, great composer, and he was a great composer of any sort, but he was a great ballet composer. Now, I should go ahead and say, when this is going to be, because we haven't gotten to that. There'll just be one performance, and that's Friday night, the last day of February.
And it's at the Kroger Center.
And it's at the Kroger Center at 7:30, yes. And this is also the last performance of the season for the classical ballet.
Which a lot of people will find interesting because they think, gee, it's just the end of February. Isn't there something coming up in March or April?
Yeah, right. And, and most of the ballet companies do end their seasons fairly early. And in the past, the company has closed in March, but just because of scheduling with the Kroger Center and things like that, had to go a little bit earlier.
Well, the thing that has impressed me over the years, and this is my feel. It doesn't have to be everybody's, but this is mine. I decided well over 10 years ago, probably 12 or 14 years ago, you can't be all things to all people, and I really liked what the Columbia Classical Ballet was doing in terms of presentation. It truly is ballet. And I know there are a couple of ballet companies in town, and you can't be in bed with everybody, and I decided that Columbia Classical Ballet, based upon my knowledge of ballet, was the company that I wanted to associate with, and I have. And the other ballet companies in town may be fine, but I don't have them on my show. I have one because of what I just said. You can't be all things to all people, and you can't hype everyone and say they're just all one. Well, in my opinion, this is the best. And the thing that I like so much about this company, it is made up of young people from all over the world, and it ain't the same old. There are some companies in town, if you've seen one of their productions, by God, you've seen them all. That ain't so with the Columbia Classical Ballet Company. Everyone is different, as it should be.
Yeah, and it is also, worth mentioning that, the classical ballet does have dancers from all over the place. We have a big contingent of dancers from Japan and Korea this year, and and oftentimes the dancers will come in just for a season or two, and so some of these dancers will be leaving at the end of the season, and these are award-winning dancers from all over the place, and this is if you haven't been to a performance this year, this is the time to go. This is your last chance to go and see them. The places to get tickets, of course, at capitaltickets.com, and also by calling 803-251-2222, and the tickets start at $5, actually $6 with the service charge, and go up to $33.
And
so
that's
it's definitely affordable.
And that's the other reason why I've supported the Columbia Classical Ballet, because every effort has been made to make sure that it is affordable for everyone. And it is. I mean, $6 for a ticket is absurd. And truth be known, if you can't afford the $6, they'll give you a ticket. That's true. I mean, this is honest truth, because of the importance of the company wanting ballet to be something that people learn about and have an opportunity to enjoy this art form. Most people who, if you say ballet, will say, I don't like it. Have you ever seen ballet? No. You see, if you've never seen or experienced something, your reaction is probably going to be negative. But when you explore that and say, if you take it one step, have you ever seen a ballet? Well, no, I never have. You need to experience the athleticism of ballet. You need to see how much time and effort goes into a production. You need to see how these dancers communicate a story without ever speaking. All of these things are wonderfully done to great music. What's not to like? Huh?
It's always a good time, and even if you're not, if you aren't sure if it's something you're going to like, this is a good one to try out.
It really is.
This story, and it has a lot of drama in it. It has a lot of, it has some scary moments. It has some great beauty. So it's a good one to come to.
Jeffrey, I thank you so much for coming and sharing on Health, Wealth, and Happiness.
Thank you, Gary.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I'm serious about this. This score that Tchaikovsky wrote for Sleeping Beauty is as good as it gets. I mean, I think it's a masterpiece that he wrote. If you don't like the dance, you'll like the music. I'm here to tell you, but the dance is superb. This Friday, 7:30, Koger Center. $6 a ticket. I don't know how you beat that. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock.